Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. We're getting into August and my allergies are not cooperating, so apologies in advance. Today we are working on the 38 Plymouth and we have some lead work to do down here on this filler panel we installed in the last video. Now, I don't know how to do lead work, but I'm gonna learn, and either you're gonna know how to do it and criticize me, or you're gonna learn something too. Let's just get right to it. So what I've got here is the old metal over here. It's been cleaned up. The new panel you can see has been cleaned up as well. I'm going to go ahead and throw some this wax and grease remover on there to make sure that I have it as clean as possible. And then we're going to break out our Eastwood kit. Alrighty, in our kit here I've got a big filey type thing, rasp for cleaning up the lead. We've got a couple of different paddles in the kit, an acid brush for throwing on the tinning material, a couple containers of the lead-free lead phone call. Well, that was somebody calling for my extended warranty, I assume, because I never actually said anything. And if it was a real person, they would have actually said, "Hey Tim, what's up? Are you there?" So they got blocked. I don't have time for that crap. Back to our stuff here. We've got our Johnson flux solder tinning type stuff. We have our bucket of paddle butter for your wooden paddles, so you can go ahead and spread that lead around. And pretty much, I'm just going to get to it here. We've got our plumbing torch here. Hopefully that should get the job done for us. And let me get the tripod in the right place, and I'll try to show you what we're going to do. Well, I did a faux pas. I forgot to record this section. I thought I was recording the whole thing. Let me recap what I've done here. Is I have taken our tinning paste, ran it over our area here we're going to work on. I've heated it up with our torch. And you can see, I'll do it again for you, once the material turns that silvery shiny color, you've done your job. Now some folks will say, here I'll do some over here for reference, some folks will say heat it and brush it on at the same time. Some folks will say heat it and then brush it. It all depends on what you've learned and what you are comfortable with. So let's just kind of heat it up and you'll see it change to that shiny color. There we go, and while this is still warm, I'm going to go and get my damp rag full of water and baking soda to wipe this off and neutralize that acid. 1 second. Now, if I would have smart, I would have grabbed a glove, but basically, you'll see all this brown coming off, and that means you're doing your thing. So once you get that all cleaned off, you're going to be ready to move forward with your lead. Well, Shop Cat's down here to say hi. So again, we're going to heat the area that we want to work on, heat up the tip of our lead, and just sort of dab it in there. And you can kind of equate it to body filler, just kind of pile it in there. You want to make it somewhat clean and presentable so you don't have a lot of extra filing and sanding and grinding to do. But the main point is to get the area covered that you want to work on, and hopefully you won't have to come back for a second round because again, stuff kind of melts when it gets hot, especially on these side surfaces. So let's just heat it up and see where we're at. Now we're going to let that cool down. Some people will say you can go in there and start filing it when it's warm to help it, to help a little bit, kind of meld it and squish it off versus hard, filing on cold material. We'll see. But for now, like I said, this side, if you remember from the last video, up here somewhere, the passenger side had a far worse fitment than the driver's side. So this side looks a little ugly. Hopefully the driver's side will clean up a little better. But again, we're gonna let this cool, come back and file it down and see where we're at. I did miss one important step, the all-powerful spatula thing. Apparently Shopcat has a cold. You take your paddle, get this warm, and then you squish everything in and kind of smooth it out. That's the step that I was spacing out on. So let's get that done here. All right, that looks a lot better. Let's go ahead, take two, let this cool down a little bit, then I'll come back and start filing away and finding Kleenex for my nose. Alrighty, well, I was gonna do that passenger side, and then we got a pop-up rain shower out of nowhere, and I figured I can't record, and I worked on the driver's side. I got it all filled in, and I got it sanded down. I used both the file that they sent us here, and I also got out a couple of my grinders. I got the DA, I got the angle grinder with the flap wheel on it, and got everything in here worked in, I think pretty well for a first shot. There's still a little area down here I've got to work on where some metal was replaced. That's going to get a little skim coat on it. But by and large, it looks really good. Let's take a closer look. Alrighty, well here we go. We've got just a little, a little seam here. Not even a crack, just a low spot. But otherwise, this whole seam pretty much disappeared from what was there originally, if you remember. I'll see if I can drop a picture in here somewhere. But that is pretty well gone. And I think even this contour in here came out really well. I'm gonna do some more fine sanding with something other than a giant 6-inch DA. But I think I'm gonna need just a little bit of skim coat on here, and running my hand over here, it is pretty smooth. But I think it's gonna at least afford me the ability to get this in primer and then do some blocking on it and get this buttery smooth. So I'm gonna take a break for a little bit. The kids just came down, says the wife is done with work for the day, and we're gonna do some family stuff. So I'll come back like that for you and get the passenger side finished up, and we'll wrap up this video and move on to something else, like stripping all the paint off. Alrighty, well, apparently my microphone was not turned back on, so a little bit of voiceover action here. In short, I was just saying that we'll be going ahead and filing and then grinding, which you can clearly see here. I'm going to end up going in with my angle grinder and other filing tools to get those contours worked in, mostly by tool and then by hand to finish it off. But you can see here I'm just working my way through, sanding everything down to get a smooth contour around that back quarter panel into the trunk filler panel, and just kind of make the best of the bad situation that we started with. The nice thing is with lead work, when you're sanding it off or grinding it, you won't see any sparks. But once you actually hit the metal on the vehicle, you'll see sparks again on the steel versus the lead. So it is pretty easy to see what you're working with. And pretty much all it takes is some time and some skill and some patience. You just don't want to chop away at this or you'll be redoing it. So, take your time and it'll come out just fine. Alrighty, well, I managed to not turn the audio on, so whatever my voiceover didn't catch, hopefully this wraps it up. We got our start here. My sanding pad on the DA is about worn out, and I'm out of 60 grit. I've got 100 and 200, but that's way too fine for knocking this stuff down, so I'll have to go to the store, grab some more. Driver's side, I think, like I showed you, turned out really good for a start. Not going to have to do much left there. I'm going to go put a little more lead right in here, so I've got just a little bit of a skim coat to work with instead of actually putting in a lot of filler here. I try and avoid that where possible. So that's going to wrap this one up for right now. Like I said, I'm out of the sanding pads, and next up after this is done, I'm going to put in our crossbar for the seat belt and then get everything masked off and ready to strip all the paint off, get it in primer, and do the final body work. I'd like to get this back to Wally as soon as possible. It's sort of my self-imposed marching order. He's got a date lined up with the interior guy, so as soon as I'm done, it goes to get new interior in it, and then he can start enjoying it with his family and grandkids. So that is where we're going to leave this one off. I'd like to have more time down here, but with the weather, some days it's 105 degrees and humid down here, and it's just not a good or safe environment to work in. So I'll keep plugging away as I can until I get, a shop floor and some insulation in here. So drop a comment. What are your thoughts on this? It's not a professional job yet. Like I said, I just started, but I hope it is a decent example that somebody with no prior skill can pick up some tools, watch some videos. I watched the Eastwood series. I'll drop a link to their videos down here on this, and also the kit that I used, their non-lead or lead alternative kit for lead work, go figure. But I'll drop those links down here, so if you want to go take a look at how to do this yourself, you can do that. It seemed more daunting to think about doing than actually doing it once you kind of read or watched the process. It went pretty well. So anyways, I'm gonna run for now. Again, thanks for watching. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button below. Like the video, drop a comment, and we'll see you real soon in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.